Xiaoan, the room is yours.
Good evening. My name is Xiaoan Li. I'm speaking to you from Kalamazoo, Michigan, with the Fetzer Institute. I'm a senior program officer and really blessed being able to take the lead on the education portfolio. So I get to work with children and teachers for the past 10 years or so. Really blessed. I want to welcome all of you to tonight's event. I've been looking forward to it. And there are many reasons I want to share with you that why I've been looking for this moment. I don't know how I've been going through the whole thing. The social unrest, the crying out, COVID, already hitting my own community and my own family. Just so many forms of suffering. I'm seeking a way out. What are you seeking tonight? I don't know if we have the answer for you, but your presence will help me for sure. It is in that spirit I want to welcome you again, and you're not going to be disappointed. That's the best I can promise you. With that, with all kind of thread of thinking my personal emotions, the benefit of being the person either to quiet you down so you can behave yourself for the night, or I'm supposed to warm you up because the feature is coming up. I don't know which one that is. I do have something for you. I want to share an image first. I want to invite you to breathe very naturally. No effort. Just enjoy this moment. If it's 5 o'clock Pacific time, I want to specifically welcome you. Just be present at this moment. I have a poem to share based on my own reflection after so many different emotions. There's a voice deep in me been crying out in the dreams, say, I'm enough. I am enough. Read with me. I have no idea what Dr. Jacqueline is going to talk about. Who knows? He might talk about love. That would be wonderful. But anyway, this is a form of self-love. I'd like you to be with me. A poem about worthiness by Jennifer Williamson. There's a wholeness that's already mine. It's already ours. I'm not just the seed. I'm the rain that waters the flower. It's a reality that's already there, that I'm enough. I take on faith, the wholeness is already mine. That I need do nothing to deserve, that my worthiness is based only on my being. I'm wise enough to let go. I'm strong enough to remember the truth of who I really am. I can encounter the world in such a way that I remember who I am. I'm the rest inside unrest. I'm the depths of the sky and the light piercing the sea. I'm the crest of a wave. All that I need to be, I am. There's no problem to solve in this moment, guys. There's no plan to make, no failure to be feared, and no other place to be. This moment is enough. This place is enough. This imperfection is enough. I'm patient enough for my life to unfold in divine timing. I feel the fullness of my life in this moment. I feel the richness of my life in this place. I'm loved beyond thought, and I have nothing to prove. There's no one to impress. I received the message that being is enough. I'm wise enough to see magic through a child's eyes. I'm resilient enough to see past the pain. I'm kind enough to realize that my worth has been with me this whole time. Beyond the shadows that I have created, the message remains, I am the same. I have always been enough simply by being here, simply by being. I will conclude this poem. It only takes a moment, and then remember this again. A beautiful poem has a way to get people to meet where they are. I'm honored to share this poem with you, even though I have no idea what Jack Miller is going to talk about tonight. But we will see. With this, on to Dr. Lisa Miller. Thank you.
Joanne, thank you for that beautiful opening inspiration and poem. And thank you to the Fetzer Institute for your support, allowing catalytic education to be developed. This is our fourth of our four-part series, our finale tonight. Catalytic education was designed so there might be a leadway into the opening of school and a bridge into the first 2 months. And we are now there. By way of analogy, perhaps, in terms of the labyrinth, I might sense that we're 2/3, 3/4 of the way into the labyrinth of our forced retreat from COVID. And as we near the center, we have perhaps a rare opportunity to be into life in another way, so that as we exit, we can work towards the integration of our newfound awareness into teaching, being part of civil society. The past 4 sessions after tonight, I hope, will have been a source of community, that you've made colleagues and friends, a source of inspiration and wisdom, sharing of practices. The National Council for Spirituality and Education includes series such as these. And while this is our last, we will move into what we're calling S4, Science, Spirituality, Self, and Society, as a series of podcasts. It will include some of the speakers you've heard here, as well as those who've spoken over time for our larger institute, the Spirituality Mind Body Institute. Some of the speakers you've seen here have been part of the Collaborative for Spirituality and Education in our Leadership School Partnership. And you've met leaders from Campbell Hall, Julian Bull, Sacred Heart, Suzanne Cook, East Harlem School, Ivan Hagman, and you've met the group leaders. Paul, should we real quickly do a wave? Because this is our last session. Perhaps Paul? Good. There, good. We have Chris Tate. Chris, maybe if you speak into your mic.
Thank you, Lisa.
Cameron.
Hello.
And of course, from past sessions, Nelson, and Joanne has also been a small group facilitator. I also want to thank Jonathan, our very capable pilot. Jonathan?
I'm a quiet presence, but thank you for noticing me.
And Ferris, our ingenious marketer. And of course, foremost, Amy Chapman, our associate director, who has helped envision and host and prepare these sessions. Tonight is our speaker, Jack Miller. And as I read his bio, you will see that we are very honored that we really do have a founder of holistic education offering our concluding keynote. Jack Miller, who you may know his written name, John Miller, and I found out by reading his memoir, John Miller Jr. Jack Miller has been working in the field of holistic education for over 40 years. Professor Miller is author and editor of 20 books on holistic learning and contemplative practice in education, which include The Holistic Curriculum, Whole Child Education, The Contemplative Practitioner, Meditation in Education and the Workplace, Love and Compassion, Exploring Their Role in Education, and the International Handbook of Holistic Education, which is superb. I've read your handbook. His writing has been translated into 9 languages. The holistic curriculum has provided the program framework for the Equinox Holistic Alternative School in Toronto, where Professor Miller has been involved as an advisory role. Professor Miller teaches courses on holistic education and contemplative education for graduate students and students in initial teacher education program at Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto, where he is professor. I had the true honor of reading an early draft of Professor Miller's memoir. And I will say that as someone who's studied the science of the spiritual child and written the book, The Spiritual Child, I found it breathtaking that Jack Miller was indeed a spiritual child. And so much so that he doesn't follow the most common path of having been lost and then found. But really, as I read his memoir, he's always been spiritually present. He's always had a bold, clear observation onto daily life and a deep connection. So it is not surprising that he should go on to be a foremost leader, allowing all children to realize their natural spiritual core. Jack Miller, we are so honored you're here. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm really honored to be asked to talk. Again, I'm so appreciative of the work that you're doing at Columbia University. I was fortunate enough to speak at the conference last fall and just amazed by the leadership that you're doing in this very important field. So let's begin. We've got a PowerPoint. So John, if you could put, yeah. So these two people, they both said this: love is our true destiny. And of course, you know Bell Hooks, so the African-American scholar. She's written a lot about love, but also quite a different person, Thomas Merton, who was a 20th century contemplative, Catholic contemplative. But they both, and I believe this too, that our ultimate destiny is love. So in my talk, I'm going to talk, just before I go ahead, I'm going to talk about 8 forms of love. But again, I'm going to quote Bell Hooks. She says, she wrote, again, she's written several books on love, but when I talked of love with my generation, I found it made everyone nervous or scared, especially when I spoke about not feeling loved enough. I was told that I should consider seeing a therapist. I understand that a few friends were simply weary of my bringing up the topic of love and felt that if I saw a therapist, it would give them a break. But most folks were just frightened of what might be revealed in any exploration of the meaning of love in our lives. And again, in the academic world, love is something that's rarely talked about. Again, it's just something that we sort of put to the side. And I think we need to bring it to the center of educational dialogue. And so that my hope tonight is that by doing that, so I'm going to talk about 8 different forms of love and how each one has a connection to the classroom in some way or another. And my interest started many years ago in a class, my graduate class at OISE. They were sharing people were sharing how they felt what was going on. And one person wrote that she said, there's a lot of love in the room. And that got me thinking that students do in our classes occasionally have this feeling of love arising. And another one of the students, this is a more recent one, wrote this about a class that I taught. Simply put, I feel this course is about healing one another. To me, it is home. It has been welcoming and inviting enough to allow me to develop close and intimate relationship with many people whom I have just met. I also found this course real, authentic, and organic. It is first and foremost about us, one human being to another, about opening our hearts, reaching out and supporting one another, sharing our stories of joy and sorrow, our moments of vulnerability, and allowing ourselves to feel empathy at a very deep and personal level. That was written by a woman from Saudi Arabia. And I think, again, she and other people in that class were experiencing some form of love. So now let's move to the different forms. Let's look at the first form of love, self-love. John, if we could go to the next one, please. Yeah, thank you. And again, thank you, Juan, for again, your poem was beautiful. It was so much about self-love. And self-love, and again, Bell Hooks said, self-love is really the biggest challenge, in particular in our society, because there is a lot of like self-doubt, even self-loathing. And, but in a way, self-love, in some sense, is maybe the most important form of love, because if we don't love ourselves, how can we love another person? And it's self-love is not self-esteem. It's something much deeper than that. And one way of looking at and actually encouraging self-love is seeing ourselves as part of creation. Creation is beautiful and mysterious, and each person is also beautiful and mysterious in their own unique way. And if we can see ourselves as part of creation, a natural self-love arises. And the Ojibwe writer, Richard Wagamese, in his last book, One Drum, he actually suggests a meditation where we meditate on the phrase, I am one with creation. And I've included that phrase now in my own meditation. And a second way, again, of cultivating self-love, again, is through traditional mindfulness and meditation practices, because some people have said that meditation is really a form of making friends with ourselves. As the thoughts arise and the emotions arise and pass away, we accept them. And we end up accepting all of it. And through that acceptance comes self-love. So again, working with mindfulness in education, we can cultivate self-love in our students. So John, the next one on personal love. So I'm going to talk about 3 forms of personal love. First of all, romantic love. And this is a very, of course, this can be trivialized in movies and other forms, but it's a very powerful experience, that first experience of romantic love, where we really we desire to be with that other person because we're somehow nurtured by their presence. And also for a young person, this is usually the first time that they feel that they are more concerned about another person's welfare than their own. So it's something to be treasured, but it's also the beginning of a journey. And Linda Carroll has talked about the 5 stages of love. And I think young people, it'd be valuable to read her work and others who see love as a journey. It's not just that first wonderful experience. And people can gain wisdom by, again, looking at romantic love as a journey. My wife is Japanese, and she introduced me to the term en, which is the idea that we have at times mysterious connections with other people. And we can meet a person, and there's sometimes right away an awareness that we have some connection, some mysterious connection. And this can often lead to some kind of work together. And so many examples, maybe one of the most powerful is the relationship between Helen Keller and Annie Sullivan. those two people had powerful N, and that N led to so much powerful work that they did around the world. Emerson and Thoreau is another example of two people that had N. So people can come into your life and we can recognize that there's possibly N, and we need to, again, bring awareness to that and work with that. And finally, friendship is a form of personal love. Again, friends in our life they're so invaluable. And again, in the day of Facebook, when we may have like hundreds of friends, we can question, well, what is really the essence of friendship? And I think young people need to talk about that. What is the expectation that we have of friends? And so, again, I think this is, in our day and age, that's really, really important to talk about. So John, yeah, thanks. So the next is impartial love or compassion. And so when the Dalai Lama looks out on an audience, he sees that everyone there wants happiness and doesn't want to suffer. And not just, of course, human beings, but all animal life. All animals do not want to suffer. So that realization leads to compassion for all life. And it is not partial, it is impartial. It's like the rays of the sun. It just falls on everyone. And again, Thich Nhat Hanh has written about this kind of love. He says, nothing exists by itself alone. We are all beings to each other. We cannot reality into pieces. My happiness is your happiness. My suffering is your suffering. We heal and transform together. Every side is our side. There's no evil side, no enemy. So again, in a way that to nurture this kind of compassion is through what's called loving kindness meditation. And I begin all my classes with this form of meditation, where first of all, you send thoughts of well-being to yourself, and then you move it out to your family, your friends, and then everybody on the planet, is a way of cultivating compassion. And I should mention the work of Karen Armstrong, who developed the Compact for Compassion. And I urge you to go to the Compact and sign that. So the next one, please, John. Then there's the love of learning, which as educators is so important. And again, we see young people have this natural curiosity about the world, and not just about everything. They want to know about the world and how things work, and constantly we can, as parents, sometimes we can get tired of the question why, or so. But again, it's so important to support a child's curiosity. And Susan Engel has written a wonderful book about curiosity, The Hungry Mind, and how we can nurture curiosity in the classroom. But often what can happen is that with, again, particularly in today's focus on standardized tests, and that there's so much emphasis on coverage and accountability, that the child's curiosity is not fully encouraged. And that it just must be really at the center of our classrooms, is nurturing the child's curiosity. And even as an adult, I read this one thing by a writer in the New York Times. His name is Sean Pidgeon. He's a novelist. And he said when he gets really excited about what he's researching, that he talked about rapturous research. And I think that all of us have maybe at times have had that experience. We get so excited about what we're learning about and reading about and experiencing that it becomes a rapturous experience. And again, that's something we need to nourish and encourage in our own lives, rapturous research. So John, the next one. So again, this is an ancient one, love of beauty, goes back to Plato. And again, nature is really, beauty is culturally, differs culturally in how it's seen, but usually nature is a universal form of beauty that people recognize. And one form of education is really devotes a lot to beauty, and that is Waldorf education. Beauty is central to what they do. And if you've ever seen the theme books that children do, they're always beautiful, like drawings. Also, the blackboard in a Waldorf room, you'll see the teacher beautiful like diagrams and things that they've shown. So they still keep, but I really believe in all forms of education that beauty still needs to be central to what we do. And one person that, again, wrote about beauty was Thoreau, and he actually developed the idea of beautiful knowledge. And he said in his journal once, he said, "May I gird myself to be a hunter of the beautiful, that nothing escapes me. I am eager to report the glory of the universe. May I be worthy to do it." And of course he was worthy with Walden and all the things that he wrote, and his whole life was really devoted to nature and the beauty of nature and what he called beautiful knowledge, which is again seeing the beauty of the earth. And people like Thomas Berry, of course, also their writing is a form of beautiful knowledge. And this is something, again, I think we can cultivate in our education, is this idea of beautiful knowledge. So the next one, John, thank you. So nonviolence is definitely a form of love. And Gandhi and King constantly talked about love, again, as a powerful force, what Gandhi called truth force or soul force. And his whole life was devoted to the science of nonviolence. He saw his life as an experiment about how we can learn more about, because we know that we've had so much concentration, and history courses have been devoted basically to wars and violence. And our culture is just permeated by violence in our media, our films, and so recognizing the importance of nonviolence and looking at, again, examples of nonviolence. There have been histories of nonviolence. Even there were successful practices of nonviolence against the Nazi, particularly the Danes during World War II, did not cooperate with the Nazis. And so I strongly believe that this needs to be a core part of our curriculum to look at. And of course, the recent death of John Lewis, here was another person who devoted his whole life to nonviolence. And he was, of course, initially moved so much by King, and he lived, his whole life was really devoted to the idea of love and nonviolence. He constantly talked about love. So the next one, John. So presence. And Albert Cohen wrote this: "I believe that prevalent presence is the equivalent to love. Giving full presence to another is, I believe, the greatest gift of a person can offer." And Ellen Burks, a Zen teacher, she wrote this about presence: "When you are fully present with others, they can feel it. It speaks to their hearts. There's a loving quality to presence. It connects and unites us. Loving presence heals and brings wholeness and vitality to life." She said, "Presence is a boundless field without fences, marring the natural beauty or defining its edges." And I believe presence is central to teaching, to cultivate presence. And in my classes for years, I've required people to do meditation, because meditation is really learning to be present to what's happening in the moment. So the more that you can do that with some kind of practice, the more that helps you when you go into the classroom and be present with your students. And it's so easy because the challenges of the classroom are so great that you can get lost in thoughts or what am I supposed to do next? But the more that you can be present to the student, the stronger connection you will make in your classroom. And I think it's really the foundation of good teaching is simply being present. So finally, the last one. So cosmic love. And at the end of the Divine Comedy, Dante writes he wrote that my instinct and intellect are balanced equally, which is a holistic view of knowing. And he said that I saw that love is what moves the sun and the stars. Love is the animating principle of the universe. And again, King and Gandhi wrote about love in this, and this is what King said. I've discovered that the highest good is love. This principle is at the center of the cosmos. It is the great unifying force of life. When I speak of love, I am speaking of that force which all great religions have been seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is the key that unlocks the door which leads to the ultimate reality. So occasionally we can have experiences of cosmic love where we feel that our ego drops away and we feel part of the universe, part of the cosmos. And these moments should be nurtured and encouraged. And one of the most, most interesting and powerful moments was Bill W., who was the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he had this experience. He was I think he was in a hotel room, and he had this white light filled the room, and he felt this presence. And from that moment, that was the beginning of AA. And next he found a friend that he could share his problems with drinking. And so that one moment led, and some people have said that AA was maybe the most powerful change method developed in the 20th century. So he had this momentary cosmic experience of love, which led to this powerful way of healing people. And again, if you have read about near-death experiences that people have had, and there's a huge literature now on near-death experience. And Jeffrey Long is a doctor who's written sort of the research on that and looked at all these case studies. And almost a universal aspect of somebody who has that experience is this unbelievable experience of love, of feeling this incredible, it's so strong that they don't want to come back, but eventually they do. Of course, they don't die. They have a near-death experience. But this is the kind of thing that they experience, and so we need to acknowledge. And again, I think young children can have these experiences, like looking up at the sky on a starry night. And so we need to, again, this is another form of love. So these different forms. I think I hope that maybe we're going to have the question and answer now, I understand, but in the small groups, you could say, which of these 8 that I've talked about really resonate with you? Which one of these would you like to cultivate more in your own teaching? So that's the idea. I'm not saying, it's not possible for all of us to work on all of these or integrate them all into our teaching, but I think we can certainly integrate some of them and make them more at the heart of what we do in the classroom. So that is my talk for now. And then I understand we're going to have some question and answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. That was wonderful. Really a joy to listen to. We're grateful for your wisdom, for the beautiful images that you shared to go along with just talking about different forms of love and how we can think about those as they apply to education. So you're right, we're going to take some question and answer. We appreciate that, your kindness and generosity of spirit in doing that. So here